Hey, thanks for tuning into the Zelos Podcast, the show that's all about the pros behind the pros in sports. I'm your host, Rocky Snyder. This week, DJ Johnson's in the house with me, strength conditioning coach with the Miami Marlins. But before we get underway, you've only got maybe a week or so to go before the 3-day functional summit in Providence, Rhode Island with Perform Better occurs. Now, this is the last one of the year. If you haven't been to one of them, you could do worse things. It's a great place to learn and network. Check out performbetter.com. And while you're there, look into my workshop I'll be doing at their headquarters in West Warwick, Rhode Island, September 27th, all about understanding closed chain biomechanics from the ground up. It's all about how you move. So if you want to go diving deep, check it out. Also, check out my website, rockysnyder.com, for continuing education workshops, podcast archives, blogs, tools, training tools, and a whole bunch more. CEUs for chiropractors, physical therapists, athletic trainers, strength coaches, personal trainers. And for continuing education, you might want to check out Setanta College. They've got Masters of Science programs in performance coaching, as well as sports injuries and return to performance management, and also sports psychology. Just go to Setanta College, enter RS10 for 10% off tuition today. Also, check out my book, Return to Center. That's strength training to realign the body, recover from pain, and achieve optimal performance. Whole bunch of good information in there on how to bring the body back into alignment while you're in the gym. Follow us on Instagram at Rocky_Snyder. Click the subscribe button. I'm out of time. Let's listen to the conversation. Well, James/DJ, I'm not sure which one I'm going to call you as the conversation goes by, but I want to thank you for coming on the Zealous Podcast. I'm stoked to connect with you over the internet and for you to agree to be on this podcast and have a conversation. Yeah, and what timing, especially with the All-Star break now. By the time this records, we'll be back for the Major League Baseball season. We'll be hopefully still going strong. And no offense, my team growing up was the Boston Red Sox, and right now, going into the break, they are the hottest team in the league with 10 in a row, 3 games back from and just a game and a half back from the Yankees. Nothing would make me happier than to see the Sox overtake the Yankees and secure the wild card. I know we're far enough away from that, and you're in the National League, so I don't have to contend with anything like that. But first, welcome to Zealous.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be on. Glad I can make it.
Well, it's an honor to have you. How about, I usually ask people right away, like, give me your super origin story. Like, how did you land from growing up in Texas to being the assistant strength coach for the Miami Marlins? How did that all come about?
Oh man. Honestly, I have to give glory to God and some mentors and just connections. There was some great opportunity. So I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to pursue strength and conditioning in a professional setting. I had been doing private setting, working with youth athletes, some professional, some college athletes along the way, just kind of in a private setting in high school as well. And just going through that process, I remember I had a conversation with one of my mentors, Benny Wiley, who was over at USC, and he was actually my strength conditioning coach when I was at Texas Tech playing football. And so I
Right on.
remember visiting him at USC and having a conversation with him, and he was like, "Man, he was like, you need to make sure your family's on board if you want to pursue it." And at that time, I was working at a HBCU called Houston Tillotson here in Austin, Texas. Working with all the teams. I was the interim head strength and conditioning coach there. And then from there, the athletic director that was there that brought me on ended up going to Chicago State University. And so she brought me up to Chicago State University. And then from there, I had a mentor, Ray Wright, who was also the director of strength conditioning for the Washington team when they were the Redskins and for the Houston Texans for a period of time. He contacted me and told me about an opportunity. Miami Marlins had that's a new regime pretty much coming in, and he connected me with them, and it kind of just really just took off for there. I'd actually applied for the minor league coordinator role, but I didn't get that, so they brought me in as the strength coach and pretty much in rookie ball, and I bounced between rookie ball and high A, just kind of going back and forth there, and did a little bit of rehab, and then I assume I did well enough to where they wanted to give me an opportunity with the major league, and then from there I was able to successfully achieve this role.
Coach, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know Benny personally at USC, but it just so happens a couple weeks ago I was down for the Sportsmith conference in LA, and uh, a friend and colleague of mine were going to head over to USC and see a couple of the strength coaches. Then we found out Benny had moved on. I'm not
Right.
sure where he's gone on, but he's left a fantastic legacy behind and some great, I'll say, great reputation. It almost precedes him. So to be with him and to have his tutelage, gosh, you got to keep that in the bank because that just pays back dividends, I'm sure. And then
Okay.
I understand you were a PE teacher at one point in time too.
Oh, I think one of the things that made me do PE was I wanted to be able to teach at every level, right? And because every student doesn't, I mean, every athlete doesn't learn the same. And so, kind of what you learn in PE is you understand the difference between the kinetics or excuse me, kinesthetics, how you learn differently, right? Whether it's visual, auditorial, or whatever that may be. And
Yeah.
so that was something that was just from PE, working with those youth athletes and those young kids and being able to say, hey, listen, let's look at it from this perspective or let's break it down in this different way. And I think that helped me as I kind of move further along my career to be able to talk to different athletes at different levels and help them understand different in different ways.
I love it. Diversify, yet stay in the same industry to some degree. And uh,
Right.
do you? I'm just curious. Do you hear from some of your former students when you were their PE teacher, or they know where you are right now? They reach out to you.
Yeah. Quite a few, quite a few. I see. Like I said, I also coach football, basketball, and track. So I've kind of been in all realms, in all capacities. And yeah, so I have a lot of them that are still connected with me through Instagram, Facebook, and even when they see me in person. I actually just had one of my athletes who I coached in seventh grade football. He's a baseball player over at Elon, I believe it is. And he had reached out to me. I was able to allow him to come to a game and watch Marlins play. Fortunately, we got the victory that day
Ah,
too, so that was
right
nice.
on. Oh, that's so cool. And so, give me an idea,
Yeah.
like with that background of track and field, football, and all the other sports. Like, what did you take from that and bring to the Marlins in regards to whether it's your coach's eye, your verbal cues, your character? What is it that you took from there and applied within the Marlins organization?
I would say really like everything you just mentioned. I was just my ability to connect with the athletes, but also break it down. I like to make complex systems simple, right? Complex things simple. And that's like a big gift of mine to be able to adapt, to be able to communicate with the athletes and my peers and colleagues, and just make people feel comfortable. I think I'm a very personable person, and I think that was huge. And I think it goes a long way in the strength and conditioning industry. I think there are a lot of people who are very, very, very smart, and way smarter than I am. But it's about having the ability to communicate that to the athletes to create buy-in, for them to believe in themselves, for them to believe in what you're getting them to do or wanting them to do, and all of those things.
Can you give me an example of taking something that's quite complex and simplifying it? Like, what comes to the top of your mind when you think of that?
So just let's say when we're talking about training, all right, and we're talking about train athlete, we can get into the weeds of the rate of force development and how important those things are, and the neuromuscular adaptations that need to occur, and all of the fine details that we can get into. But if I tell you, we want to focus on the lowest hanging fruit, which is you're not strong enough, right? And what does strong enough look like for you? Being able to just get an athlete to understand, hey, here's what you're doing. Just from an example, exit velocity, you're averaging 99 or 95. If we can get that exit velocity average to 98, that makes you more money, right? And so, how do we do that? Well, we want to build that tank. We want to make sure that force is not the determining factor of that. We want to make sure you're strong enough to where it's something else that we look at that's not a limiting factor.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Put it into dollar value. That gets people's attention. Put it
Yeah.
into metrics as to where you are now and where you need to be. That completely makes sense. Um, what what would you say are the greatest? What was the greatest challenge for you moving from interim or seasonal hire to the position you're in now? Was there anything that was challenging for you? And was that on the personal, like the family front? Was it more the professional arena? Like, what is it?
I think it's a combination. I would definitely say the family front, just not being able to be around the family as much as I was previously. That had a huge impact. But then also just being around really high paid athletes, $1 million athletes, and knowing how to connect with them and communicate with them, and just remembering that they're humans and they're not robots. Um, that was the deal. That was like, okay, when you go in here, you got to make sure that you treat these guys like humans. And I think that's probably what allowed me to be successful as I have been.
Got it. And your age and the player's age seem fairly comparable. You're probably somewhere in the middle, would you say?
Right. Yeah, I'm
And
35. Mm,
okay. All right. So you're kind of like a veteran player and roughly in that age.
right.
Does that give you, do you feel like that gives you any kind of, I don't know, like street cred with the rookies? Do they look up in that regard, or does it play any role whatsoever? Do you feel like it does?
I think it's just the ability to connect with them. I mean, I definitely believe that that plays a part in it. Not so much as like a veteran person with experience, because I actually had no desire to be in baseball. It never crossed my mind.
What?
So
What do
yeah,
you
yeah,
mean? What, you won football or what? What were you,
yeah. So
football?
I played collegiate football and some professional arena football, and so I came from a big football background. Um, and I think that was one of the things, obviously, that brought me into the baseball realm, was the ability to present some of those principles, and with strength and conditioning growing in the baseball realm, with strength and conditioning field growing in baseball. Um, they wanted me to be able to apply some of my things that I bring from football into baseball,
Such as?
like structure and discipline. From that, I know, like, last year working with the rookie A ball guys, we were doing a lot of things where we had line. I remember my first time having the guys line up as if and I brought a whistle out, and it was different. Yeah, that doesn't happen in baseball.
No, they're looking at you like, who's the new guy? What's that
Yeah.
all about?
So I'd had a whistle out, and one of my guys, Jeremiah, was like, "Yeah," he's like, "I did that too." He's like, "Don't feel bad." He's like, "But yeah, they don't wear whistles out here." But then just having guys like line up and go through lines. Like right now, we have acceleration days in the major leagues. We have set lifting days that are on the schedule. I know those are things that are not common and just in the baseball world, where you have lift actually on the schedule, and it's something that guys are excited to come out to and get the work in. And it's very purposeful and intentful. They know it. They understand how it works. They understand the structure of it, the days that we're doing it, why we're doing it on these days, and we're able to communicate with that. And so it's giving them the autonomy, but also in the same sense giving them structure. And I think that's something a lot of people don't realize, is like how important structure is, regardless of how much money you make. Right, guys still want to feel like they have a set structure and their discipline and their routine and all of those things. So if I can be able to make that easier for them, that's a positive impact.
Well, dude, that's got to be tough. Setting structure with a sport where there's a tremendous amount of traveling. There's series that puts them in one city for 2 or 3 days, maybe four at best. And then they're on a West Coast tour, or they're up in the Northeast, and then they come home and maybe they'll have some home games for a few days. And it's not uniform. It's not like, hey, we've got games on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday every week. It's all over the place. So how do you create structure in a chaotic environment?
Yeah. So what we do right now is we have our lift days on Tuesdays and Fridays, because we know those are days that we're playing. Right now, we know that Mondays and Thursdays are our off days. So we'll have a lift on Tuesday, and guys have the choice of coming in pregame or postgame to lift. And then on Friday, same thing, pregame or postgame, coming in to lift, just based on how they feel. We don't try to uh, put them in a box. if that makes sense. So we give them the
Yeah.
autonomy in that way, but also creating that structure to where they know, like, hey, Tuesday I'm coming in, my mind is right to go in and lift on Tuesday. And that doesn't mean, the way we do it is microdosing. So it doesn't mean that you come in and you got to lift heavy every time you come in, right? But it is based on where we are, what we're doing. If we just came off a traveling day and maybe it was a rough day, and maybe you had high exposures, you had 6 exposures on Monday. Maybe we don't come in and we don't go too hard at it. Maybe it's more of a recovery day, and we're just getting moving, and maybe doing a little. We always want intent, so we always chase intent. So whether that's light load or heavy load, we're chasing intent. But that's pretty much how we do it with the structure.
And what's your thoughts on pre versus post game workouts? I mean, I don't have one versus the other. I'm actually intrigued by pre-game lifts and how that plays out into performance. But and I can obviously see the benefit of doing it post. Like you, there, I'm sure there's some players that don't want to mess with how they're feeling. They don't want to lift because in their mind it's probably going to take away from their performance. I'll wait and save it till later. But I'm sure you've got guys on both sides. Like, what's your professional and personal opinion?
I think there's obviously opportunity for potentiation with pregame lifts, and so we kind of look at it from that lens. Again, it's just a matter of guys will come in, and if they feel like, hey, I want to get after it today, or let's say that they're not starting, they're not in the starting lineup, so they'll come in and they'll lift pregame, understanding that they may go in the seventh, eighth, or ninth, or later on. So it's not as bad for them. They get a little bit of recovery, but again, it's also load management. So we make sure that we're doing that as well, that we're not forcing guys into things that are not beneficial for them, or just because we want them to lift.
And then do you do a lot of like counter rotational moves based on what arm they're throwing with, whether it's an outfielder, pitcher, catcher, it doesn't matter on the the position necessarily. Do you do a lot? Do you play around with that?
Not a ton. We don't do a ton of that. They're in a sport where they do a ton of rotational movements. And so
Hmm.
who's to say, if we impact that it doesn't impact them negatively, right? If that gift of being able to really hone in on that rotational ability, whether it's a right-handed hitter or a right-handed pitcher, um, do we want to impose on that? And so we kind of take our hands off of that and allow them to be where they are, and go through their process.
So what are your, in terms of lifts, what's on your selection list? What are your go-tos typically?
We keep it very simple. We don't get into the weeds of too much. We're force empowered. So we'll go trap bar deadlift. We'll go back squat. We'll go. Um, some will do barbell deadlift depending on the setup. We'll go split squats. We'll do explosive step ups, different things like that.
You hit mobility drills before the lifts?
Yeah, so we have a prep, an entire prep that's put into it. Typically, players will go into the athletic training room and kind of get prepped there, and then they'll come in and go through their preparation before getting into the lift.
But now we're halfway through the season, All-Star breaks upon us. Like, how do the programs going into the second portion of the season here, how do they compare to the beginning of the season? Like, what are the elements that you have taken out because of where the players are right now, and what are you implementing?
I think what you kind of realize, and I came to this realization when I first got into baseball. I had the assumption that every athlete was athletic, because I came from basketball, football, and track. Um, and
Not to
then
badmouth baseball, because that's
Not
not
to
what you're
bad mouth.
saying.
Yeah,
Not
that's
at
not what I'm saying.
all.
But
No, I hear you.
but it's some guys that training has never been their thing, right? They've never had to worry about being athletic because they throw 100-mile-per-hour ball or
Sure.
they hit 350, right? And I just have to be fast enough. But I'm
And
strong
maybe some
as
of them
all
have said that, it's been promoted that we need to put more weight on you so you have more mass and momentum and more power on your pitch. So
right.
what put weight on any way you can. Don't try and lose
Exactly.
it. I got you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's kind of the idea of that. And so after getting into it, what you realize is that a lot of these guys have a really young training age. And so you don't need a ton. You don't have to throw in all the bells and whistles. Pretty much anything you do is going to, present some type of improvement. And so that's why I said I go back to, what is the lowest hanging fruit? Force. It's for most guys. And that's what we try to hone in. Take a look right here. So we want to make sure that we're force, power, robustness, whatever that may be. We want to make sure that we're tapping into that. And so that's what I found to be my programming now, is just being consistent in that. If it's a unilateral lift, we want to make sure that we're tapping into unilateral. We want to make sure we're balancing it with some type of bilateral explosive movement or force and power movement. And that's kind of where we stay at. And it's not we chase adaptation. We don't chase exercise selection. So
And
whatever
so
gets that adaptation is what we go with.
are you kind of 50-50 unilateral to bilateral?
Yeah, I would say yes. I would say yes. I would say it's pretty balanced.
And do you have a certain order in which you like to have them execute the lifts? Like we're going to do unilateral first, followed by bilateral, or is it the other way around? Or do you not really put that into consideration?
Usually you'll kind of get like the unilateral in the prep, and then we'll do it in more of the accessory work. And
And when
sometimes
you
I'll throw it in the main lift if it's like today we're doing safety bar split squat, and that's our force focus for the day.
and when you find significant asymmetries with the unilateral lifts, what do you do there? Do you go, okay, we're going to try and balance that out? Or do you go, I don't want to mess with how you're performing. So it's good to know that that's there. We just don't want it to get more extreme.
So yeah, I think it's a tool for understanding where they are, but we try to manage it is more so the thing. And then when we're thinking about the unilateral lifts, more so it's the purpose of the unilateral. Like I said, because of the training age for most of these guys, it's actually beneficial to do unilateral. It's not something that hinders them, or you find the deficiency, you have deficiencies. It's actually better and helps them. Just like again because of the training age.
Of course. Okay, with the youngest players you have typically are going to be about 20, 21.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think it's 20. I want to say 20 or 21.
Yeah.
I believe.
And how many world languages do you speak?
Now I speak Spanish. Well, I
You
speak
did?
I speak English. Not fluent in Spanish, but I'm pretty close.
Yeah. Are you taking Spanish classes, or is it just something that you're picking up because of your position?
So a combination. So last year, because being in rookie ball, most of the players spoke Spanish. So it's kind of like if you want to succeed, you better speak Spanish. And so I learned it pretty quickly. I had like a little bit of a background in it in college and high school. And
And
so it just kind of took on from there.
do you go to the DR as well? Is that part of your role?
I have been. I was there last year. I went last year for 3 weeks.
Right on. And with that, and I understand there's the complex down there is fantastic and really well organized for most teams. Did you bring anything back from that experience?
Yeah. Impact, man. It's all about impact as a strength and conditioning coach. And I
What do
think
you mean?
I think it's so much more than we're so much more than just coaches in the sense of, being able to lift weights and get guys stronger. But for a lot of those guys, I was a father figure. I was a mentor. I was a big brother. Um, when I left, I wish I could show you the video. But when I got ready to leave, like it was wet and it was raining and we had a little competition that we were supposed to do. And the guys were like, no, let's do it. And so we did the competition. I told them it was my last day, and like the joy and celebration of like everybody crowding around, dumping water on me and like chest bumping and all of those things. Like you just saw the emotion. Had about 6 or 7 guys come up to me and just tell me how much they appreciate me and they respect me. I'm also a guy who I don't believe in making my athletes do something I'm not willing to do. So when we were out there doing our training, when we were out there doing our sprints, I was joining in on the sprints. When we were out there doing our conditioning, I was out there doing the conditioning. I would lift in the morning. Sometimes I might jump in just to compete with a guy, with a young athlete, but just to show them, um, just more for motivation. And so, you wear a lot of hats as a strength coach, basically.
Yeah, I want to kind of backtrack, Coach, if you don't mind, because
Mhm.
you had said at the very beginning you weren't sure if you really wanted to be a strength coach. Was there a moment when you realized that this is exactly what you want to do?
Yep, that was at USC.
And
So
what happened?
I was visiting Benny at USC, and I hadn't really been in the setting like that with as many guys as were in the weight room, and it had about 40 guys. They had their I guess it was the freshman group coming in, and it was probably about 40 guys in there, and the energy was just amazing. Like, I mean, 6 a.m. and they're ready to go. They're locked and loaded. They're going through their prep. They're going through their speed drills and everything. And you can just hear the music blaring and guys laughing and locking in when it's time to lock in and all of that. And I was like, yeah, this is it. So this is the environment that I desire.
I love it. Now, I've had a lot of friends, or I've made a lot of friends all over the course of this show, and many of them, of course, are colleagues, but they have explored being directors of performance, strength coaches, and whatnot in different sports. Being director of performance for, say, Mike Potenza comes to mind. He was director of performance for the Golden State Warriors last season, and he went back to the San Jose Sharks, where he's the director of player health and performance now. So, and that's just one example, trying it out, the NBA and the NHL. I mean, you're I will say you're young in the fact that you have so many more years in this industry to offer. Is it, and without getting you in trouble with the Marlins organization, could you see jumping over to other organizations like the NFL, the NBA, and so on? Or have you found that Major League Baseball, surprisingly, is where you feel at home right now? And again, not to say like everyone's going I don't want to get you in trouble, but I'm just
Right.
wondering like where your horizons go.
So for me right now, I don't know how many organizations are like what we're doing at the Marlins. And I think that's probably important. I haven't been around enough and experienced enough to know like how our training sessions are, the energy that are inside of the energy that's inside of there. Sometimes, I mean, on average, we'll probably have about 10 guys in there lifting at one time and getting after it, right? And the environment is just high energy. And so it reminds me of that. Obviously, it's not to the extent of the football, but it's nice to be a part of, to see guys getting in there, encouraging each other. They're competing in their CMJ jumps and ISO belt squats and still doing it in season. And I don't know how often you get guys doing ISO belt squats in season in baseball, but we have guys bought in to knocking that out and supporting one another when they're doing it. So just like that's what I can speak to from now for now, right? It's
Right
like
on.
this environment is it's amazing. It's definitely a blessing. That's something that I didn't know what to expect, and I feel like anything less than this, I don't know how I feel about it. So,
That's
uh,
awesome. I said, take me to arena football for a moment, though.
mhm.
Your position, the team you played for, and and the end of your career. Like, where was your head at?
So I played defensive back all throughout college. I was a 4-year starter at Texas Tech University. Played all positions, corner, safety, nickel, all of that. And then I got to arena football. I was at corner and nickel. I actually got the call to come up and start and actually play on my birthday. I was just kind of a practice squad guy for arena football, and then they brought me up to play. And I guess I had a pretty amazing start to my rookie season. I was up for Rookie of the Year after about 7, 8 games in. I had an opportunity to for a tryout because our coach at the time was a former Dallas Cowboy, and so he had made some connections and reached out to who he needed to reach out to, and I had an opportunity to try out with him, but I ended up tearing my meniscus my last game, and so that was defeating because once I played for the San Antonio Talents at the time, and I tore my meniscus. Didn't know I tore it. I actually did it like going for an interception and hitting my knee up against the wall, flipping over the wall. And so that was interesting. But I jumped over the wall, was excited. Teammates were excited. I'm chest bumping. And then I wake up the next morning and my knee's swollen and I can barely bend it. And then that was just like, that was that. I tried again with the Orlando Predators. Got an opportunity there. I had to wear a knee brace, but it wasn't back to 100%. So balls that I would usually intercepting or knocking down, now I'm getting beat and it's looking really bad, or I'm barely getting to it to try to make a play and I'm just making a tackle. And so from there, it was kind of like a situation to where I was like, all right, like this is severe enough. And obviously the medical wasn't the best in arena football. So at that point, it was like, all right, like this is enough. I've did as much as I could up to this point, and I just kind of shut it down after that.
Gotcha. Was that your first significant injury across your career?
I had a Mumford procedure done on my shoulder when I was in college my junior year. And so that one, but it was over the summer. So it was like I got in the towards the middle end of spring. So by the time the season came back, I was 100% and ready to go. But yeah, that
Right
was
on.
the only one that I had that had that type of impact.
Has there been any occurrence while you're with the Marlins in the last couple of years here where you've utilized that experience, whether sharing it with a player who's coming back from injury or just having that understanding of what's going through someone's mind as they're unsure what this is going to be like as they go through the rehab process? Like, do you use that? I imagine you use that kind of experience in some beneficial way.
Yeah. I try not to, I don't like to go too deep into the weeds of that with guys, but I do just give like encouraging messages. I definitely encourage them that, it's a process like anything else, right? If you want to get stronger, you got to lift weights and you got to keep doing it. And it's not going to happen overnight, and you just got to understand and believe and trust the process. And so getting guys to having those conversations more so kind of where I stay with it. Like, man, continue to trust the process and accept the small victories. Like celebrate the small victories when you get there. Don't be so ready, so eager to reach the main goal of whether it's back on the mound pitching 98 miles per hour, but take the small wins and celebrate them. And then understand I've also like just had those conversations with them about what does success look like, and what does progress look like? And it's not a linear line. It's not doesn't just go here, right? There's ups and downs, and sometimes the dips are lower than the hills are, or higher than or the dips are lower than how high the hills are. And so you got to understand that and accept that and continue to push forward.
And so, if we were to look at your toy box in regards to what you have in the gym, and I'm going to say, DJ, you've got 5 minutes, get what you need, and then get out. Right? What are you going to take with you? The ship is sinking, and you need to put some stuff in the life raft. What are they?
uh, Barbells and plates, um, bands and dumbbells. That's
Okay,
probably what I'm going with.
great. So obviously sticking with the basics. Just need some good old fashioned weights to lift. And the bands, what are the bands going to be used for?
This depends. Bands of mobility, things, routines, then also just the variable resistance. I like to incorporate that when I can. So those are things that I would use it for.
Right on. Christmas is only 5 months away. And if we could get you anything, if Santa could put anything under your tree as it relates to strength conditioning for your team, what would it be?
Ooh, for strength and conditioning, man. Sheesh. I don't know. Maybe we have turf on our field, so I don't need turf. We pretty much got everything that we need, man. I couldn't tell you, even off the
Beautiful.
top of my head.
Okay. Um, then I'll go right to sports science. How integral a part or how much communication do you have with the team sports scientists?
Quite a bit. I mean, we're that's something that we do pretty regularly. We have a database that we look at to refer back to. A lot of our programming and everything that we do is supported and backed and driven by objective data. So we want to make sure that we are able to say that this athlete is getting better in this area, not just subjectively. So we're constantly having conversations about what that looks like, how we can manipulate this or that to improve and make sure our athletes are maximizing their potential.
And the guys that you're overseeing on the team, is that shared with other coaches, or is it divide and conquer? You're going to take this group of athletes, I'm going to take this group. How does it work?
I think you'll find like it lets guys tend to move towards who they want to move towards, and so we kind of just let it flow like that. Vega and do a good job of interacting and engaging and communicating with every athlete. Even I do a good job with communicating with the Latin athletes, the Latin players, and have good relationships with them. And so we're supportive in those areas in case there's something to where he can't make it or I can't make it. And so from there, that's how we just built our system around that. It's like you can go to anybody for anything.
Right on. Okay. What would make you a more effective coach? Like if you could look
Mm.
at your own inventory list, what is it that you're looking to work on or that you're currently working on that's improving you as the Marlins assistant strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah, right now I would say that that is rehab. That is a big one. Just understanding the rehabilitation process of our athletes. So, we have some athletes that have had some pretty significant injuries, and so just following up, staying in touch with and in tune with where they are, what the training looks like, what is the method, or what phase are they in, what's the prep plan or process for getting to phase two. How do you determine that they're ready for phase two? And so that's the thing that I'm locked in on working on right now that I want to improve in.
So there's no dedicated rehab S&C coach. It's kind of the blend between athletic trainer, PT, massage therapist, nutritionist, and the strength coaches kind of all blended together as a team approach.
Correct.
Right on. And are there certain areas within the rehab spectrum that you are going, okay, I'm really curious about this. This is the place where I really need to reinforce my understandings. Like I said, and not that it's necessarily body parts, whether it's arm mechanics or the shoulder or the hip or the foot or whatever. It could be something completely non um, segmented related, but where is it that you are going, okay, this is where I really need to dive in?
Yeah, I think it's more so like the tissue, the healing of the tissue and that process and what, understanding load and the impact and what you're able to do with the tissue in certain phases of the healing process. And I think that for me, that's something that I want to learn more about. I think once they're healthy and you're able to start working towards the range of motions and things like that, I mean, you should be doing that as you're going through it. But understanding how you work those ranges of motions and biomechanics as they're going through that healing process.
Sure. That's a lot. And
Yeah.
now there's a lot of products, which I'm sure you guys have a good deal of medical and training products to facilitate that even more so. Whether we're talking uh, s- soft tissue mobilization, whether it's hyperbaric, whether it's contrast baths or whatnot, like there's so much out there right now, and I'm not sure if they're all as effective as some of the research is purporting. I think it's going to take time for you to really see that. But what do you favor in terms of modalities for your players? Are there certain kind of tools that you're really going, yeah, this is showing quite a bit of promise?
Yeah. I'm a very, like I said, I like to keep complex things simples. I am very simple when it comes to my programming. Like I have a firm and a strong belief that more doesn't mean better, right? I understand that you can get you can do the minimum and achieve the result that you desire. You don't have to do the maximum to achieve the result, and the maximum doesn't mean that it's actually optimal for that athlete. And so, in that regard, I'm very adaptable, and um, I focus on again the adaptation over anything. So what am I trying to achieve? What is the goal? What is the objective here? If I want to get a guy faster, what are the limitations? What are the limiting factors? And where do I start with those limiting factors? Focusing on what matters. And so then everything else derives from that.
Got it. Restricted blood flow. I imagine you guys use that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Or am I? Yeah,
BFR. Mhm.
BFR. Yeah. And um, and the other thing I can just imagine is with BFR, of course, the loads are light, tempo is slow, reps are typically high volume. But getting away from that and trying to load the tissue in a different way, I could see potentially an undulating pattern that you're not
Absolutely.
going to have it be a linear. Like, so when you're talking about undulating tissue loading, uh, how do you determine those high load days versus low volume days, or um, l- tension, time under tension, and so on? Are you using force plates, velocity based training? Like, what are the objective ways in which you determine this undulating pattern of loading?
Oh, I think it's a combination. It's a combination of 10 deck. I know we use 10 deck quite a bit. Some force deck. A lot of it is more of it is subjective though, like pain threshold, like
Mm.
understanding where this is, right? If you're a 2 out of 10 on something, and we're like, okay, we can maybe load this a little bit more in a space where you should be 4 out of 10, and 4 out of 10 is fine. So I know that's one of the ways that we're doing it.
Do you adjust it based on the personality of the athlete? Like, because you're going to have some athletes that are just going to push through the pain because they just want to get back in it, and come hell or
Right.
high water, they're just going to push, push, push. So then do you dial it back for those individuals compared to the ones that are very apprehensive about loading? They're still not sure. And, you know what I mean? Like, it's great that you're
Yeah.
doing objective and subjective. Just how do you monitor the subjective aspects of each athlete?
Yeah, I think that's more of that's a little bit in the weeds for me. Because I don't get too in deep of that yet. That's kind of where I'm wanting to learn more is like, hey, what does that look like and how are we there? How are you handling it? But our PT does a good job, like I said, of just communicating and building a relationship with guys before he gets to that point and understanding what type of guy he's working with. And so as he goes about it, he learns more about the guy. And so one of the things we're not afraid to do is to push an athlete. Um, so we don't stress about whether or not we're pushing. We don't stress too much about whether we're pushing an athlete too far, because their body will let us know, right? If and they'll let us know. And it's kind of that's
Self-limiting
something
exercises. Sure.
exactly. It's unavoidable, right?
Yeah,
So we push our athletes, and we don't want to we don't want to. We'd rather be go a little further than too little when it comes to that.
right on. Right on. That's awesome. Okay. Out of the entire support staff in the Marlins organization, whether it's the registered dietitian, nutritionist, physical therapist, athletic trainer, massage therapist, your head strength coach, the interns, like all the players that make up the support for the ball players themselves, who do you find yourself learning the most from?
Oh, that's a good one. Um, I'd have to obviously, I mean, I think I'd have to say um, our director, Alex Ross. Yeah, he just
In
he's
what
he's
way?
a guy's a genius. First off, let me just throw that out there. He's a man of many talents, but he's just like how he goes about things and how he thinks through. He's such a forward thinker with everything, and and when he asks questions, he already has the plan in mind when he's asking you a question to see where you are. Um, and then he's the type of director who allows you the autonomy to figure it out, and not just give you the answers. So it's like it's like he'll give you a nudge, like, hey, here's where you could do a little bit more. Now I need you to figure out what that little bit more is, right? Or what that
Nice.
little bit more looks like. And so it's what it's done for me is it's helped me to create systems that I had subjectively that I didn't have objectively.
Hmm.
And so that's been a huge impact, I would say, for me. Besides him, definitely my boss, Daniel Vega. But those would be the two. And there's kind of different lenses. Vega is more of a guy who teaches me how to handle myself within in the room, how to handle myself amongst um, colleagues and front office, and how to communicate what I want to say a little bit better than being so direct and transparent all the time. So learning how to just express myself in those ways. And so I would say both of them are probably even, just in different ways.
Right on. Good answer.
Yeah.
And if you ever decide to leave baseball, politics might be something because you're very tactful with your answers too. Um, but how about this? I think I got one more question for you, Coach, and that is, if the Marlins said, DJ, we want you to go back to school, we want you to get a PhD, um, where would that where would that department what would you pursue? Not say you're going to or you have to or anything, but like where is the line of information, the knowledge, the realm that you're curious about the most?
Ooh. Probably, I would say just probably physical therapy.
Mm, staying in that
Um,
rehab section then.
well, yeah, I think the reason being for me is because it encompasses almost everything, right? You're able to understand an athlete from the start of rehab to
Return to
performance, like
performance.
all the
Yeah.
way through. And so being able to say, hey, here's where he is, here's how we adjust this, and really map out a full plan. I think that's huge, right? That's something that is super valuable. So being able to have that, not even if I'm not using it constantly, but then also when I'm sitting in a room and I'm talking to ATs and I'm talking to PTs, being able to speak that same lingo and be like, okay, I understand what he's saying. This is where he is in this process. So as a strength and conditioning coach, when I'm working with him, here's what I can do. Um, and I think that would be the area most important probably for me.
Sweet. Yeah, it makes complete sense because that spectrum, that line between rehab to return to performance can be very segmented, and there can be gaps, not just in communication, but in approaches and handing the baton over. Sometimes gets dropped, and we only know what we know, so we focus on our own wheelhouse and don't expand into the gray zones that we're uncertain of. So I totally understand what you're saying. I think that's fantastic. And I think there's tremendous information out there that will get you closer and closer toward that realm, which is really good. Uh, all right. So you guys are heading in the second half of the season now.
Mhm.
Obviously, the hope is to make it to the postseason. And, but what's your hope in I won't say your postseason of life, but you've got young kids. Of course, you're great dad, staying involved with your kids' lives with all this traveling and so on. But like other pursuit, do you have time for other pursuits? I guess that's a good question.
Yeah. So I mean, I make time, and I think we all have time to make time for what's important to us. And so, I don't really have anything other else that I'm kind of focused on right now, aside from making sure that my family is taken care of and making sure that I'm the best that I can be for the Marlins in this current time frame. And those are my main two focuses.
As well, they should be. This has been great. DJ,
Yeah.
if people want to follow you, aside from, I'm going to put in the description Marlin's website and all that, and I'll put in the LinkedIn page of yours. But do you do any social media posts or anything like that? People can follow what you're doing.
Yeah, I do. I'm not a big poster. I'm trying to do better at that. I think I shared that with you. But it's strength coach underscore DJ, or underscore strength
Right.
coach DJ. I don't remember exactly which one.
Well, This has been a really engaging conversation, really fun, and honestly, I learn something every time. I've told my listening audience time and time again that this is actually a selfish pursuit on my part, starting this off in the middle of COVID, and here we are 5 years later, and coming up on like 250 episodes, and that's 250 opportunities to learn from some of the best, and this is no exception here, man. I've learned quite a bit, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time, your willingness to share. And I just want to thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you, man. You've been amazing. This has been an awesome experience.
Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you, DJ, for coming on. Man, that was a great conversation. Always learn something new. And nothing better than America's pastime. Learn what they're doing down in the Florida region. Hey, remember, we've got one more event left with a 3-day functional summit. Chicago's already been here. Long Beach just happened, but Providence, Rhode Island is still right around the corner, August 14th to the 16th. There's some deals going on, too. You can check out performbetter.com. And while you're there, register for the September 27th one-day workshop at their Functional Training Institute. Yeah, say that 5 times fast. It'll be September 27th with me, recalibrating movement from the ground up. You can go to my website. Also, if you want to learn more information, just rockysnyder.com. You can check out blogs, podcast archives. If you like these podcasts, please do me a favor and my guests, and share it with somebody that you know, some colleagues, friends, families, whatever. And we'll see you next week.